Welcome to the Minds on a Mission podcast, the podcast where we explore the journeys that challenge us, change us, and chart the best course for our best selves. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music /Audible, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Deezer, Podbean, and Buzzsprout. I'm your host, Samantha Bailey, a content creator and entrepreneur. And today's guest is the lovely Jeannie Saunders.
Hi.
Say hello, everyone, to Jeannie.
Hi there. Good to be here.
How's your day today?
It's been great. I just moved in right next to my daughter, and my little granddaughter comes up and visits me, and it's good. I've had a good day.
I love that.
Yeah.
For our viewers who may not know you, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I will. And first of all, I want to say thank you, Samantha, and give kudos to you because I think it's amazing that you're doing this and you just jump right into it. And I think you have a lot of confidence, and I think you're going to do great going forward. And I appreciate you inviting me to be on your podcast. It's kind of cool and fun. And so to tell you a little bit about myself, so I grew up in Utah, spent most of my life in Utah. When I was a little girl, I was very creative. I started writing songs when I was about 7 years old, and I started writing poems and plays and skits. And we had a little back porch, and I would put them on for like our neighbors. I'd invite them over, our neighbors and family members, and they'd come watch them. And it just kind of took off from there. I started writing songs. I've written over 200 songs probably. Music is my passion. Music is very healing, and so I use it a lot, not only to help heal myself, but to help others as well, to encourage them to use music as an avenue for healing. Just something as simple as, if you're having a down day, just put on your favorite song, and before you know it, you'll be dancing and singing to it, to listening to high frequency music that is also very healing. So my therapy throughout my whole life has been the piano. So as a little girl, I was really shy, even though I liked to do all those plays and everything with my friends and family. During my like junior high and high school years, I became extremely shy, and I didn't talk a lot. And I felt like I had a lot in my heart to share, but I didn't. And so what I did is I put all my emotion and all my feelings onto the piano keyboard. And I loved it because I write all kinds of music. I write children's songs. I was able to write a song for each of my children, and now I'm writing the songs for all of my grandchildren. I've written several love songs. I've written spiritual music. And we were talking about intuition before we came on, and I use my intuition a lot when it comes to writing music, along with my feelings. And that's just the way I express myself. I'm a published writer. I've written 9 novels. I'm working on 3 books right now. I'm doing a life story. I'm doing a one on health and healing, and I'm doing one on a personal journey about some things that I've experienced. I had a poem published in a children's magazine in 2007. I had another article published about 10 years ago through the therapist that I worked with. And then my daughter started her own publishing company 3 years ago, and she took one of my poems. So all of my poems were inspired by my children, not all of them, but a lot of them. And she took one of her favorite ones and she turned it into a children's book and published it for me. So that was really fun to do, especially to do it with my daughter. And that was like a dream come true. And also one of my other dreams, I'm very big into living your dreams and to setting goals to make them happen. So that's part of what I do with the guided imagery, is I can help people overcome any fears or obstacles so that they can live their dreams and manifest what they want to in their lives. And I was able to manifest recording some songs professionally as I used guided imagery, and I was invited to perform at somebody's event I've written programs for women and children on helping them learn to love and believe in themselves. I think it's so important that we believe in ourselves and believe that we can do things like you're doing with this podcast. It can be done. And there's so many people that hesitate because they think, oh, I can't do that. I won't be good. Or, oh, it won't be perfect. Or I don't know how to do it. But you just jumped in and did it. And so I encourage that. Live your life now. Believe in yourself. Believe in your dreams and go for it.
I love that. And when I first started talking with you about having you come on, and you shared more about yourself, I was like, wow. Like with everything, I was like, there's so much that you've done in your life, and it's like so inspiring. And I I love what you shared about you and your daughter, and oh, sorry. um that connection that you guys have, because I can relate to that a lot. Me and my mom are very close, and we have podcasts together, so it's really nice to see other people being able to have that same type of bond, because that's like rare, I feel like.
I agree. I think that's a beautiful thing that you're close to your mom. And I'm grateful that my daughter, I have 4 children actually. And my oldest daughter, she's the one that I just moved next to, and she has a little 5-year-old. But I appreciate how she's allowed me to be a part of her life, and we are really good friends. We talk about everything. We help each other out, and that's what it should be all about. That's what family is for. But just to feel that love, like the first day I moved in, and I hear a little knock on the door, and it's my little granddaughter, and she's like, "I just came to say hi," and it's like, oh, there's nothing better. There's nothing better than family. So.
Yeah, that's how I feel. My mom lived I had moved back from California. I know we were talking about that a little bit, but and she still lived there for a while, and she just moved back to Maine a few years ago, and she lives like, it's like not even a 5-minute drive, and it's same thing like you said. It's so nice to like actually be able to be close with her again, and like
Yeah.
just being able to be like, oh, I can see you whenever I want because we live so close, and you know what I mean, and
Right.
have that relationship. So
Yeah, that is so great. Yeah.
I love that. And with what you shared at the beginning, talking about songwriting and being a musician, I wanted to ask you what inspired you to start your journey as a songwriter and a musician.
I grew up in a very musical family. So my parents were actually performers. My mom was a pianist and my dad was a singer, and they would go around and perform for different events in our community. And then there were 9 children. They had 9 children. And there was never a night where I didn't hear music in our home. All day long. My mom was a piano teacher while I was growing up. And then at night, my dad would come home from work and my mom would sit and play the piano. I have never heard anybody play as beautiful as her. She can play by ear. She knows her music. She knows her theory, but she could also play by ear and ad lib a lot. And it was just beautiful. And my dad had a gorgeous voice, and he would stand by the piano and they would sit and sing and play. And that's what I grew up with. And so I had a great love for music from the very beginning. And then when we got older, our parents started taking us to perform with them. But I think it was just a natural thing inside me, like as a little child. I mean, I remember the very first song I wrote when I was like 7 years old, and it's just a silly song, but it it kind of just comes to me naturally. And I know we all have our talents and gifts that I believe that God gave to us that we're meant to develop. And I believe that not only are we meant to develop them because they bring us joy and sometimes comfort, but if we share them with others, they can bring others joy and comfort as well. And so that's what I've tried to do. When I'm having a down day or something, I always will put on music. I put on my favorite songs, or I'll just sit at the piano and play out whatever I'm feeling. But it also came natural to me to be a poet. I don't know why, it just did. It just like flows. and it's just really fun. And I like to get creative. And so, like I said, when I was about 7 years old, I wrote my first song. I started writing plays for everybody to come and watch. And it just was a natural thing for me. And it was a thing about, it was my passion. It's what I love to do. So I just developed, as I got older and older, I started writing songs for my community. Like, for instance, as an example, when my children were little, our city did a community play, and they asked me to write the play. And then there were a couple of other plays that were done in the community, and they asked me to write the music for it. And then also in my church, they would ask me to write a lot of music to use in, either at church activities or in church to sing. And so I was able to develop that gift and talent and actually share it with people to help it be an uplifting thing, especially through the church that I grew up in. The songs that I wrote, I tried to make them inspirational and uplifting. So I just am grateful. I sit and look back now, and it's like, wow, I really was able to share a lot. And I'm so grateful I had those opportunities. And then I started having people reach out to me and ask me to write personal songs for them. For instance, one of my friends, her husband had a brain tumor, and she wrote down the experience of what that was like. And she gave it to me and asked me to write a song to it for her. So that was the first time I had written a song for one of my friends. And then I since have had several people, excuse me, I'm going to grab some water. Like a couple of years ago, I had a friend who was given, her grandson was put in her care, and she asked me to write a song for him. And that was a beautiful thing, because now she can go back and play the song for him, and it was fun to do. So it's just really cool that I can not only bless the lives of others, but at least hopefully that's what I'm doing. But I do it because I love it.
Yeah, I it's so cool to see, like, how we start out in something and how it's like at first, like, it seems like, feels like for us like it's something that brings us joy, but then the thing that really transforms it and makes it like feel well-rounded is when you're able to incorporate other people into that and to bring joy to their lives. And to hear how you're doing that, and with everything you shared, like, that's amazing. And I can't even imagine how happy those people were to have you to do that for them and to help them through these tough times. So I really love what you shared. And I had another thought. I love music as well. I'm not a singer. I can't sing, although I would love to be able to sing. But I that's always something I've always been like, at one point in my life, I want to be able to be good at singing. Like, I don't think I want to be a singer, but I want to be good at singing. Like, I want that to be something that I'm good at. And I've always loved listening to music. Like, that's kind of been like a therapy for me. So I'd say I'm kind of on the other end of like being the consumer of it. Like, I love listening to music. If I'm having a bad day, that's the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put on some music and I'm just gonna have some decompression time. So I really like that. I really like how you started so young and your family were also into music, and how you've transformed it to this beautiful thing that you can share with others. So I love that.
It's been a beautiful thing for me in my life. And, you know, I'm one, I love to meditate a lot, and I love to get grounded. I've learned a lot about the chakras. I actually wrote an ebook about the chakras and how they can enhance relationships. But that's what the guided imagery is it's basically, I take you through a personalized meditation. So not only is music healing, but I also went down the avenue of healing modalities that I use. And, I went through a very, very tough time in my life. I don't want to get too personal, other than I was in a very abusive relationship for about 24 years. And I lost faith in myself. I lost hope. When you're degraded every day and demeaned every day and told you're not worth anything, it makes you feel like you're not worth anything. And I got to where I didn't have any self-esteem, and I didn't have any love for myself. And I didn't know how to put myself first. I didn't know that I could put myself first. I think it's so important. I've learned that it's so important to nurture ourselves and pamper ourselves. And it's okay to put ourselves first when we need to. Yes, we need to help others when we're able to, but we've got to come first, because if our well's not full, we won't be able to help anybody else. And so I went through this really, really, really hard challenge for several years where I lost myself. And after that, after I got out of that marriage, I had to find myself again. I didn't have a voice. I didn't feel like I ever had one. And I just had to go deep into my soul and figure out who I really was. And was it, really worth living? Was I really worth, was it worth my effort to heal myself and to learn who I could be again, to learn how to fly again? It's like my wings had been clipped and I had to learn to fly again. And I was devastated during that time. It was very traumatic for me. And that's how I came across the guided imagery, is because I found a therapist who did it. And it was so healing for me. It's basically, a lot of people are like, what's guided imagery? They don't understand. It's basically hypnotherapy. And so my therapist really helped me through some trauma and those struggles. And she tried to help empower me. She let me go to her empowerment classes. And she was so good for me, just to give me that push and that boost, like, Jeannie, you can do it. Jeannie, you're worth it. And then she offered a job to me, and she offered to pay for me to get the guided imagery training, because she told me, I feel like this would be a natural thing for you and you'd be really good at it. So she paid for my training, and then I worked for her on her clients, and that's how I paid her back. And so I got the experience, and it was just so therapeutic for me. And not only that, but it also, so basically you can visualize in your mind, that's what imagery is, all of the goals you want to reach. And you actually visualize seeing yourself do it. And it's like athletes will use this, or music performers will use this, where right before a performance or a competition, they will visualize in their mind themselves doing their very best, like breaking a record. Like in track and field, they visualize themselves doing better each time. And there have been studies that show that it actually does help. But like with, I had a client who was a musician, and he told me that he was really shy and he was having a hard time feeling like he was confident on stage. So I gave him a couple of guided imagery sessions where I had him visualize being confident and performing at his best. And I had him visualize the audience responding in a positive way. And he told me that his next performance went really well, and he felt like that session helped him. There's so many examples I could give of people, public speakers who are too nervous to get up and speak. And so I give them a session, and then they're able to do it with more confidence. It helped me. So my therapist who trained me did a couple of guided imagery sessions on me after I was invited to go sing one of my songs that I wrote for women and children. I'm going to backtrack. The reason why I wrote this songs for women and children was to help them learn to love and believe in themselves, because I was at a point in my life where I didn't think I was worth being loved, because I felt like I was shown that in my marriage, that I wasn't worth being loved. And so I really had to learn to nurture myself and allow myself to find the healing that I needed, and that would help me come out of that dark time and come out on top, so that I could help other people who are going through the same thing. And that's why I wrote these workshops and these 2 specific songs that I was able to record professionally. One's for women, one's for children. And it talks about helping them love and believe in themselves. And so so when I was doing the guided imagery, um, I was invited to go to an event and share one of those songs. And I have a children's character that I dressed up, like I have a gown and I have a cape and a crown. And my children's character is named Jeannie Star. That's where this star comes from. So, because sometimes I went by Jeannie Star. So somebody asked me to go perform at their event in Denver, Colorado. And normally I would be terrified to sing in front of people, because I'm like you. I want to be able to learn how to sing. I can sing, but I'm not a professional singer. I'm not a soloist, but I can sing. But this guy was like, Jeannie, just sing through your heart and people will feel it. They'll feel the love from you as you sing through your heart. But I did the guided imagery sessions and I pictured myself. At first I wanted to be behind the curtain, and it's like, no, I can't go out there. So she got me out on the stage and she's like, now picture the audience and they're all smiling and they're cheering for you. And then I started singing the song and they started cheering even more. And then by the end of the song, I had a standing ovation and they were all doing this with their phones, raising their phones and, waving to the music. And when I went to Denver before the performance, I was not even nervous, because I had done these sessions enough that I had confidence in doing it. And then when I actually sang for the event, that's exactly what happened. Is everybody pulled out their phones and they were waving their phones, and they started singing with me. And then at the end, they gave me a standing ovation. And it was just the coolest thing. And it's like, oh my gosh, I got to live one of my dreams. And that's one thing I want to say. Don't put off your dreams. You never know how long your time on earth will be. And that's another thing I could get into, is because I actually died and I had a near-death experience, and God sent me back and said, you need to help women and children who have been through the same trauma and heartache that you've been through, and you need to help them learn to love and believe in themselves. So that's my mission, and I take that seriously. And I wholeheartedly want to help people who have struggled in any way that I have, and help them to know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and they can make it through. And that's part of what my poems are as well, is I try to write inspiring poems to help people, to give them hope and, something to keep them going.
That was beautiful. I almost at one point started tearing up because I was like, wow. You're just a powerhouse. You are so strong, and everything that you've overcome, like it takes a lot to be able to get through that and to be on the other side, and to use what you've been through as a strength and not a weakness, and to see all the good things and to be able to do that. Like, I feel like that is something that can be really hard, because it's so easy to see all the negatives, like with what you were sharing about being on stage and stuff, and through the guided imagery kind of working through that. Like, I was thinking, like, I feel like the thing that puts people like awful in a lot of things and why they're like so scared is because it's so easy to just be like, oh well, what if this happens, and you know what I mean. And just, I love how you're you're able to do this and to share that with other people and show them like how they can work through it. And I mean, I don't think I've ever personally done guided imagery, but I would say probably is the same thing. That event I went to last year, they did something kind of similar like that where everyone would close their eyes and then they would kind of talk through like, okay, you're doing this, and so I don't know if that's like the similar experience, but I
That
would
seems like
say,
it could be. Yeah.
yeah, I would say though that was one of my like most helpful experiences because it was like walking through like you're talking with your younger self and you're telling them, you know, what you would want them to know, and like that that's what you do, and like being able to do that with so many people and have them help them break through these like limiting beliefs, like
Yeah.
it's so beautiful, and I just love everything that you've shared. Like you're so inspirational, and
Thank
yeah.
you. Thank you. And thanks for sharing that. I think that's beautiful that you had that experience. You talked about your younger self. A lot of times when you have to go through deep healing, you have to heal the inner child that was wounded. And sometimes you have to bring in the higher self to help connect with the inner child so that you can be whole. And that's also something we can do in a guided imagery session. A lot of people will visualize having their inner child there or their higher self there, or you can call in angels, or you can call in people from the other side. It's not like mediumship or um, being psychic or anything like that. It should, you just imagine the essence of that person being there, and imagine in your mind having conversations with them if you need to. um, it's just so healing. It's just like you said in that event that you were at, that it was so beautiful and that you gained a lot from that. It's just so beautiful. You know, it's so important. I just want to say I start every morning with either a meditation or with some healing music, or I'll put on some of my favorite songs. It's so important to get your spirits up and your mood in the right place to set the tone for the day so that you have a good day. And if you can tell that you're feeling down and you're being dragged down by something, it's so important just to sit and take a minute and breathe. um, Guided imagery has so many health benefits. It can slow it it can help slow your heart rate. It can help with pain. It can help you sleep better. But it's really important. I teach people to breathe really deeply before we go into the session, because breathing deep can oxygenate your body, and it actually cleanses your lymph system as well, so you can get rid of toxins more easily. It helps anxiety. It can help people quit smoking. I helped a woman with claustrophobia. She wanted to go to Europe. She was from Utah and wanted to go to Europe and do some family history work, but she was too terrified to get on an airplane or a train or even elevators. She couldn't get in an elevator. So I had probably 3 or 4 sessions with her, and she was able to go and do her family history work in Europe. And that was so cool to see that she was able to go because she was able to work through that. So not only can it help you through, it can help you through trauma, it can help with physical things, it can help you imagine something in your mind that you want to reach for, and bring into manifestation. It's just really cool all around.
Yeah. I yeah, I shared, well, so there was a lot of cool things at that event, but yeah, like I said, that was probably one of my favorite experiences because I feel like I have a certain problem, which I know a lot of people do as well, where we don't allocate time for things like that with, you know, kind of sitting down and like making sure we're taking the time to process certain events and things that have happened in our lives,
Right.
and also to take time to kind of envision what we want for the future. And like, I think it's a whole different experience versus, I mean, vision board and stuff, like all of that is really good as well, but just closing your eyes and allowing the creativity to kind of show you things that you couldn't really see before. Like, I just feel like it was a really unique experience. And yeah, I think it's beautiful. I haven't done anything like that since then, but definitely want to get more into that because, yeah, like I said, I think that was very helpful for me and in healing through some trauma. So
That's great. You know, a lot of times, like you said, we don't take the time, and sometimes we can get stuck in fight or flight because we're overworking ourselves and we're so stressed about this or that, and we don't take the time just for even 5 minutes, sit and close your eyes and just breathe deep. And I imagine when I breathe in all of the good things that I want to have happen, or I think about all the good things that have happened and be grateful for it. And then as I exhale, I try to push out all of the negative energy, any anxiety or stress or tension, and just let it go. Even if you only take 5 minutes a day, that's all it takes sometimes. But what I do as well is I teach people, once I've given them the session, I teach them how to go back to that place so a session usually takes between 45 minutes to an hour. Sometimes it's gone an hour and 20 minutes. It depends on the person and how long they want to stay in that state. And by the way, a lot of people are like, oh, hypnotherapy, I don't want to give anybody else any control. You're in complete control the whole time. And it's interactive. I'm not just sitting there holding, a little watch saying, okay, now you're going to do this. And no, it's not like that at all. It's very interactive, a very interactive meditation. Where you use your mind to visualize what you want. But even though the first session usually takes about an hour, each session usually is about an hour, I teach the person how to go back to that state so that if they need to sit down for 10 minutes somewhere and go back to the first time that I give a session, it's called a special place, where I help them create a special safe place where they can go and have all these things happen. And once you've gone through a session, you can do that on your own anytime, even if you're at work and you need to just sit and close your eyes for 5 minutes and go back to that space. Anybody can do it wherever you are. And it's just so vital for us to take the time for ourselves to do that.
I agree. And yeah, I think a lot of stuff like that, like I said, is like kind of hard for people to get into, especially like for the longest time I had a hard time because I think with like having a lot of trauma, it's just kind of easy to want to run away from it. So then like I was thinking, like when someone is interested in it, in doing guided imagery with you, like and they seem to kind of have a hard time, like could you walk me through that, like how your kind of your process of calming people down? Because I know sometimes, like for me, like because of everything I've been through, it's hard for me to allow myself to relax and to actually be able to get into that state. So I was just kind of curious, like if you've had similar experience with people with that, and like kind of things you do. Tell us that.
Yes, definitely. In fact, most people are like, I don't know how to sit and relax and meditate. And it's like, don't worry about it. I'll just guide you through. I'm here for you. So the first thing I have them do is find a comfortable place. They can either lay down or sit up. And it's just very important that they're not distracted, so that they're in a quiet space where they're not going to be bothered by the phone or a family member. So that's the first thing. And then I have them get relaxed, and then I teach them how to breathe. I have them close their eyes, and I go through the breathing, and I have them take 3 deep breaths. What I do beforehand is I kind of talk about if there's any concerns or what their goals are, and we gear the session towards what it is that they're wanting. Because there's like 60 different sessions we could do, and a lot of times in the program that I learned, there's about that many that we could actually do. But I have learned to just kind of follow my intuition, and sometimes I just make it up as I go. But I always have them tell me, so, okay, what is it you want to work through today? What are your goals? What are your desires? We always discuss that first. And then we get relaxed and close our eyes and take those deep breaths. And as they breathe in, I want them to breathe in all of the good things that they've told me they want as if they've happened. And if any concerns they've had, breathe them out before we start. So that gets them into that relaxed state. And when you take deep breaths, it helps your nervous system calm down. So that's why it's so important to take the deep breaths first, so that they can get into that relaxed state. And then I use wording that helps them feel safe and secure so that they can relax more. I have them picture a light coming towards them, and then the light comes and encompasses their body and their being, and it's a healing light. And then I count them down from 5 to 0 into a relaxed state. And then that's where I have them start imagining in their mind a place they'd like to go. So it could be like, some people really love the beach. And so they could go imagine in their mind that they're going to sit by the beach. Some people like the mountains, so they can imagine they're going to sit by a lake in the mountains. Some people like forests. So I just let them choose wherever they want to go. However that looks, they create it in their mind as we go. And then I have them use their 5 senses to explain to me what it feels like, what it looks like, what it smells like, what it tastes like, all of those things. I just really have them really delve into what the special place really is, and what's there for them. And then I will ask them if there's anybody that they would like to have come join them. And so they can imagine, that's when they're invited to invite a guide if they'd like to. Some people have had their pets that have passed over. They've invited them, or a lot of people ask for their loved ones that have passed on, for their spirit or essence to come join them. A lot of people want to have Christ there, or God, or whoever, I know not everybody believes in God, but whoever that is for them, the creator, or it could be a creature in their imagination, whatever they're comfortable with, or whatever they feel they need to have come to them and be with them.
I like that. And yeah, the reason I was wondering, because like I said, I know for me, when I first started getting into different types of relaxation methods and working through trauma, like I was very resistant. So that's why I was kind of curious, like your process through that, because I know everybody does things differently, and I was really curious about that. So I appreciate you sharing that. And I know that's going to be helpful for others who may be interested and kind of may want to know what your process is like. So that's super helpful. And yes, I'm trying to think. I think I have squirrel brain, so I always have like thoughts, and then it is gone.
I do that all the time. It's normal. I do want to say, if I can, I recently learned craniosacral therapy. Are you familiar with that?
I believe it was my last guess. He is a craniosacral massage therapist. So yeah, I just recently learned about this, because beforehand I had no idea. But yeah, I would love you to share more, because he did talk a little bit about it, but I would love to know your experience with that.
Yeah.
So,
So it's another way or another method that you can use to calm the person down and to get them in that relaxed, comfortable state. And it helps release anxiety and stress, and it can help with depression. It has a lot of the same benefits as guided imagery. And sometimes I incorporate, I'm also certified in Reiki. So I'm certified in guided imagery, Reiki, I do the cranial, and I'm certified in foot zoning. I had to learn all of those things because I've had chronic health issues for about 35 years. And that's why I got really sick. And that's why I had that experience where my heart stopped after my divorce. But I had to learn these avenues because for me, the medical field didn't know what to do for me. And I went down every avenue from doctor to doctor to doctor. And then I finally found foot zoning. And then I found the Reiki. And then I found the cranial therapy. And those things just helped me so much. So that's why I wanted to learn them and get certified in them so I could help others again with them, because they are so calming. It's just so calming. And like my last client, when she was here last time, she said, it just feels so peaceful when I'm here with you to do this. And so craniosacral, what that is cranial is all the bones in your head. Sacral is all of the bones in your like hip area. And they're very similar. The structure is very similar. So that's why it's called craniosacral. So it can help align a person if they're out of alignment. It can help with stress. It can help calm them. So what you do is you use your hands and put your hands underneath the person's head, and I visualize the spinal fluid flowing freely and easily like it's supposed to, because some people it doesn't flow the way it's supposed to, and then they start having problems. Oh, there's stories I could tell you. I don't know how much time we have, but could I share a few stories?
yeah, you
That was
absolutely can.
genial. Okay, so when I was taking the class, the teacher shared, I'm going to share two stories. So the first one is she had just learned the craniosacral method, and she was practicing on people, and experimenting as she was learning. And there was a gal that called her one night at like midnight and said, Julie, my baby, she had a newborn baby. I think she said she was about 6 weeks old, something like that. But she had cried. The mom said she had cried nonstop, day and night, ever since she had been born. And she was beside herself and she didn't know what to do. So she begged this teacher to go over and do cranial on her to see if she could calm her baby down. So she started with the cranial, working on the cranial, and started getting the spinal fluid flowing, and the baby calmed down and quit crying. So the mom was like, please, can you come over every day? I need help. Can you come over and help my baby? So she did. And then about the third day, the dad was kind of skeptical, but he allowed the mom to do it. And then after, I think she said, I might not be remembering right, but after about 3 days of doing it, the baby opened her eyes for the first time, and the dad started crying and said, that's the first time I've seen my baby's eyes. I didn't know they were blue. And he started crying. So what she realized had happened was that there was so much trauma through the birth canal that the baby went through. So it threw her cranial all out of the bones. They were all in the wrong places. And so she was in pain. So the cranial helped with that, put everything back where it needed to be. And the baby did better. And then there was one other story she shared. There were some juvenile delinquents. There was a group of them. They were really struggling at school and in their community and at home, just having a horrible time. And they were just problem teenagers and nobody wanted to deal with them. And so a judge ordered them to get 6 craniosacral therapy sessions each. After those sessions, they were doing so much better. They were doing so much better in school. They were getting better grades. They were doing better at home. Their relationships changed with everybody. Their attitude changed. And the judge actually wrote a letter endorsing cranial sacral therapy, saying everybody should have this done. And so that was just kind of cool. I have that letter. I have a copy of that letter. And it's just really cool to see what it can do for people. The gal that I've been doing it on, we've been trading. So she does emotional release with me, and then she comes and gets a cranial session. And sometimes she'll do guided imagery. Sometimes she'll do the cranial. But I incorporate the Reiki with the cranial and sometimes imagery. You know, I use it all together. But she has said she has felt a difference. She has brought her children to me. She says they have felt a difference and are doing better. And she just loves to come. And it just makes my heart so happy and makes me feel so good. Like her children were a joy, but they have some developmental delays. And so she was hoping it would help with that. They were just a joy to be able to work on, and for her to say it made a difference, it means everything to me to know that I'm helping people.
That is really cool, and it made me think of like how they say like trauma is stored in the body. So it makes a lot of sense that after these sessions, people are really seeing results and feeling a lot better. So
yeah,
yeah,
it does release that trauma or stress, because a lot of people will cry and they'll want to talk about something. So I just let them talk if they want to. I let them just relax and be quiet and if they want to. But a lot of people will cry because it is releasing some of those stored emotions. I also learned the emotion code. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but there are trapped emotions in all of our organs and all of our systems in the body. And that helps release, like it specifically will go to, okay, there's heartache in the liver, or there's anger in the kidneys, and then you can release it after you figure out, there's a way to figure out where it's stored and what emotion is stored, and you can help release it. So all of these modalities are just so cool. That's why I got into them, because they helped me tremendously.
Yeah, and it makes me want to learn more about it, because it's like I know, like I said before, I had no idea what craniosacral therapy was at all. And I know a little bit, but like I couldn't really tell you what Reiki is, or like I want to learn more about this, and to like I want to put more time into doing things like this. Because like you said, when I had that experience, I cried, and I felt like such a release. And so I feel like since then I haven't really allowed myself to do things like that, and to because I unfortunately am stubborn and kind of resistant to some things, but I've slowly been working on, trying to get out of that, because I know it's beneficial for me to do these things. But
some people are embarrassed to cry in front of other people, and some people don't want, like you said, you can be stubborn. Me too. Everybody is. And a lot of us sometimes don't feel comfortable, especially if we go to somebody for the first time. It's like we don't want to, sit and blab about all of our problems, and we don't want to sit and cry. But it's so important to release the emotion and release the feeling and allow ourselves to cry. We like in my generation, we were taught, oh, you don't cry, you got to be tough, you got to keep it in. That's so opposite of what we really should do. It's so important to cry, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's healthy to cry. Because it can help us process and let go of some of those things. And that's one thing I didn't always allow myself to do. And as I'm learning to pamper myself and heal myself, it's okay. And sometimes I will lay in bed and cry myself to sleep. And I even go back and think about the memories in the past, and I'll cry myself to sleep over some of those. But you can't stay stuck in the past. And some of these modalities help you get unstuck so that you can move forward, so that you can reach your goals and accomplish the things you want to and live your dreams. And you know what? As you talk about saying you want to learn more, I could really see you getting into these things and being really good with it. I just sense that about you. I think you'd be really good with some of these modalities.
Yeah. And I think too it's something that like I would want to explore with my mom, because me and my mom are so alike. We're like the same person. And so we both are in that way of like you said, of like feeling like crying can seem like it's a weakness, and like it's just more like you said too of like we're so heavy on ourselves, my mom and I, and just like you said, feeling like we have to be strong and like you can't cry or let emotions out. So I don't know, but me and my mom, we've been kind of pushing through some stuff together, and I think that that's probably one of the final steps in this journey is pushing through that limiting of belief of, oh well, I can't cry because I need to be strong. Like I want to be able to release the emotions and allow myself to fully heal, because as much as I've done inner work, there definitely is still a lot of trauma stored in my body from everything in my life. So just need to work on learning more about this and releasing it.
Yeah. And I want to say, be patient with yourself. Everybody needs to be patient with themselves and not be so hard on ourselves and beat ourselves up, because that doesn't help us heal. And I love how you and your mom are able to work together and do this. And I'm the same way with my daughter. It's funny you said you're a lot like your mom. Me and my daughter are a lot alike. And I watch my daughter, and she tries to do everything for everybody else. And she tries to work hard and be so responsible. But she ended up in bed last week because she overdoes it, and then she crashes. And so it's like, it's okay if we're not perfect. It's okay if we need to take our time and go our pace. And it's okay if we don't help everybody in the world as perfectly as we can. We need to take time for ourselves. And I told my daughter that you've got to slow down and you've got to nurture yourself so you don't end up in bed again. And she wants to help the world, but it's one step at a time, one person at a time, one day at a time. But it's so important to be so patient with ourselves and so loving and kind. We're taught to be kind to other people, but we need to be kind to ourselves.
Yeah. And like you can't, like you're saying, like if you don't like take time for these things and self-care and work on yourself, then like it's hard to fully provide for the other people, because like you said, it's like it's easy to get burnt out because you're not allowing that time to decompress and to process things. So I definitely agree with what you're saying, and that's something I've been working on, because like I said, it's so easy for me to very very much like your daughter, like, oh, I'm gonna help everyone else and not worry about that little bug flew in my room. And so I agree, just taking that time to focus on self-care and
Yeah.
then spend time, helping everybody else. But
Right. Yeah. I just want to say, I think you're so well put together for your age, and I just applaud you for doing this podcast and doing everything you're doing. I just can tell that you're just very you have a lot of wisdom, and you're very mature for your age, and I you're on track. You're doing great.
Thank you so much.
You're
And,
welcome.
and yeah, I just gotta stop being hard on myself. It's like in my head, I'm like, well, I know that like it's just because I want to do better, but then I also am like, well, you're only 21 and like you have accomplished all these things, so like you need to give yourself more grace. But I just think that like I've always had high expectations for myself, and so it's always made it hard for me to accept like the things I have done and the accomplishments, because it's always been like, well, you could have done better, or like, you know what I mean? So that's something I've definitely been working on, having more grace, giving myself more of a pat on the back, and like acknowledging what I have accomplished, but obviously still thinking of things like, yes, this is something I'd like to do better, but just knowing that like it takes time and I just have to be patient, like you said. And so, yeah, that's definitely something I've been working on is grace, and just taking the time to like go with the flow and not like
Yeah.
rush. You know what I mean?
I love the word grace. I love that you use that. My little granddaughter, her name is Finley Grace. And my daughter named her after, have you heard of the author Richard Paul Evans? He did the movie The Christmas Box. Well, it was a book, and then he turned it into a movie. He wrote a book called Finding Grace.
Aw.
And so my daughter really resonated with that book, and that's why she named her little girl Finley Grace. But I think you've got it figured out. We have to give ourselves grace. We have to have goals, and if we want to accomplish something, we have to work towards it, but not beat ourselves up as we're doing it. And it's okay if we go at our own pace. We don't have to keep up with somebody else who's accomplished 10 things and we've only accomplished 5. It's okay. It's okay to be where we're at, as long as we're progressing, as long as, we're not stagnated. Yeah, grace is a beautiful word.
Yeah, and I feel like that's something I've kind of come into, especially those last few months, because I feel like it's like I've had so much growth, especially this last past year, but like I feel like the last few months is like, I don't know, like I've just been on a fast track and like pushing, and like, you know, with this podcast, I kind of just threw the idea out. I had started co-hosting on my mom's podcast, and I had only done it a couple times, and I just was like, I've wanted to do this, but I'm scared, but I'm just gonna throw the idea out anyways, and I did, and the response just was amazing, and it really was hard for me to believe, like, wow, other people are interested in something that I'm passionate about and want to support me. And so it's been amazing, and I'm extremely grateful forever, eternally, and just being able to get to talk with other people and get to know them, and to learn from them, because
Yeah.
I feel like there's so many people out there that have been through a lot of things that I'm going through or that I have been through, and I just get to learn more about them, and how they've gone through these things. So
I think it's so cool that you're doing this. And that's what it's all about, getting to know people, connecting, help finding connections like, oh, yeah, I've been through that too. And then talking about it. And that helps us connect more. And I just think it's great. I know I'm grateful that I got to be on here, because I know that you're like booked out several months, aren't you?
yeah, until April, and I've got a waiting list, because once April got booked up, I was like, all right, I need to slow the roll in booking, and so I've got a waiting list, and just waiting to fill those spots once we get closer to the end of this year, towards January, and I'll start booking out some more spots. But yeah, booked out like crazy, and trying
That's
to accommodate for some people because I have 2 times every week. That's usually the set time. Mondays, it's usually 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern time. And then Fridays are 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern time. But I will have some dates here and there that won't be on my regular days just to try to fit everyone in. But yeah.
I think it's amazing. I think it's awesome that you're doing this, and you're doing great. I mean, look at you. I'm 59 years old. It took me a lot of years to live my dreams of professionally recording songs, and I've wanted to do a podcast for like the last 2 or 3 years, and I keep thinking, oh, I can't. I don't know how to do it. Oh, what if I don't do it right? What if people don't want to be on it? Get rid of the what ifs, and that's what you did. You just went for it, and I am so impressed with that.
Thank you so much. And I will, after this, I know we talked a little bit about it, but share some things that I learned along the way, because if you are thinking seriously about starting your own podcast, I would love to share with you some things I learned to hopefully help you with that process.
I would love that. That would be
Yes.
great.
Okay, so I will do that. I know we're a little past the 1 hour mark, so I just wanted to ask you where people could find you, if you could share your usernames and things like that.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So I have a Google business page under Imagine That Hypnotherapy. And then I have a group on Facebook called Dream Believers Guided Imagery. And I also have a channel on YouTube under Jeannie Star. I believe I entitled it Just Believe and Dream. So those are some places you can find me.
Okay. Awesome. And I will have those linked for you guys in this, and I will have everything. I usually have that all set up. So I'll make sure you're able to find her. And as for this podcast, I know I mentioned it at the beginning, but you can find us on pretty much everything: Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok. I don't really post much on TikTok. I'm gonna start getting into clips and using clips from podcasts, but right now I'm just focused on the long form content. Um, yeah, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, Buzzsprout. I mean, we're on everything pretty
Wow,
much.
that's awesome.
And for my personal links, you can just look Samantha Bailey on Facebook. Should be able to find me, but yeah. And then I don't know how to. I link that stuff with my other things, but I don't know what, because there's so many Samantha Baileys. I'm just like, hopefully you guys can find it. But Instagram and TikTok are Sam B Daily Motivation. I'm not exactly sure what my X username is, but I'll have that linked. And yeah, that's pretty much everywhere you can find me. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. So yeah, I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on tonight and giving me.
Thank you.
Of course.
That was so much fun. It brought me a lot of joy to be able to talk to you and get to know you and get to share. So thank you.
I appreciate that. And same for me. And definitely down the line, like 3-6 months from now, I would love to, if you wanted to come back on, maybe share some updates you've got at that time. That's totally up to you, but I would love to definitely keep in contact with you. And yeah.
Me too. I would like that.
Awesome. Well,
Okay.
so we thank you guys so much for coming on tonight and for tuning in with us to get to learn a little more about Jeannie tonight. Choked on my air. So I hope you guys have a wonderful night, and I will see you guys on Monday. And it will be 7-8 p.m. Eastern time. The end slide, I'm about to end it, but I wrote to be determined. I had a guest cancel last minute, but Giovanni Salvo will be coming on Monday. We did reschedule, so that will be who will be on Monday night. So, yep, hope you guys have a wonderful night, and I will see you guys on Monday.
Bye.